Biscan National Park is one of the largest marine parks in the national park system, and the only place in the world where a living coral reef lies adjacent to a large metro area. It is not most people's image of a national park, as slightly more than 95% of the nearly 300 square mile park is open water, and the remainder of the park is just 4,400 acres of dry land in the form of small coral islands. Prior to Biscayne Bay becoming a protected area, there were major developers and developments being built. These developments and economic pursuits threatened South Biscayne Bay. Due to this, a grassroots campaign named Save Biscayne Bay was started, and conservationists were fighting for proliferation of resort communities. This movement ignited a fire between both sides of the issue. It was a battle between the conservationists and the pro-development crowd. The pro-development crowd wanted the development because they thought without it, Miami's growth would be stifled, and the area would be robbed of thousands of jobs and millions of tax revenues. However, the conservationists saw that the continuous development would pillage the nature in the area. However, in 1968, after a long political battle, the conservationists won, and Biscayne Bay became a national monument and protected area. Afterwards, support for additional protection of coastal resources led to an expansion of the monument in 1974. And then, in 1980, the monument was redesignated Biscayne National Park and was again expanded. The major actors in this movement were the conservationists, and they singled out Biscayne Bay to be a protected area because of the vast coral reef system and the fact that the reef supports a variety of species, 200 different forms of species to be exact. Biscayne National Park is a Category 5 protected area, or a protected landscape/seascape. This is to embody harmonious interaction of people and environment through traditional and non-destructive use of natural resources. There are many threats facing Biscayne National Park, some being overfishing, destructive use, and development, but the main threat to the national park is pollution, because it is destroying the coral reefs and the reef systems. Some indirect and underlying causes that influence pollution are heavy use of the park, recreational boats bumping into coral heads and damaging them with their anchors, divers stealing corals, and storms causing commercial ships to run aground on the reef and therefore damaging them. History has influenced my focus threat because as more time passes and humanity evolves or devolves, depending on how you perceive it, there are more ways to pollute and therefore it becomes more frequent and damaging to the national park. To manage threats, the protected area established 4 coral nurseries to cultivate up to 2,000 coral colonies. They also take coral from grounding sites and raise them until they are large enough to be transplanted back to damaged reefs. And cables are used to secure the transplanted coral so they are not further damaged. In addition to all this, a damage recovery program was inaugurated in 1995, and it focused on the damage of seagrass and coral reef damaged by boats. This program not only restored the damage but prevented future incidents via education, law enforcement, and other related means. The planning tools Biscayne has chosen to manage the pollution within the park are sustainable use limits, environmental impact assessments, and risk management systems, which have been slightly successful in restoring the damage caused by pollution in Biscayne National Park. One management principle that was used to combat the pollution threat was effective environmental planning processes. An example of this is that the park established coral nurseries. A second management principle that Biscayne National Park used was effective community education about the damage boats cause to coral and seagrass. Lastly, a third management tool the park used was regulations coupled with adequate policing with the damage recovery program, as they used law enforcement to limit the use of boats in the protected area. Biscayne Bay still requires action to protect it from the threats at hand. However, progress is being made and the reef systems are being restored slowly but surely.